bowed to Iveta when she came back from her much-anticipated visit. The lady didn't seem as happy on her return as she was when leaving. "I trust your visit went well, my lady," Anya said in a flat voice. She truly wanted to be the one to go with her ladyship to the Pearl Palace. Iveta threw Anya a cold look. "As riveting as watching grass grow. Her Highness only wanted me to read to her while she relaxed. My apologies, madam. I would humbly advise you do the same as well. I hear the circus can be quite an experience, and you will need someone fully rested for all the excitement to be experienced." Iveta walked past Anya and headed straight to her bedchambers, followed by her maid. A few minutes later, Solove came out. "Go back to the Pearl Palace and request for my lady's fan. It is her favorite one, and she needs it back," she proudly commanded Anya. A smile covered Anya's face, which surprised the other girl. She was hoping to make Anya miserable, not delighted. Anya really is a strange girl. When Anya arrived at the Pearl Palace, she found a guard at the door. "What is your business here?" he asked. Anya took on a dazed, ditzy look. "My ladyship was just here, and she forgot her fan. I came to collect it for her," she said in a small voice. He looked at her from head to toe, concluding that the girl was very pretty and harmless. "Fine, go in and ask one of the maids. Don't dare wander." He motioned for her to enter when he opened a gap through the large white gates. Anya was impressed with the Pearl Palace. Like the others, the design was similar, but this one had additional decorative pillars and a fountain in the middle. She was immediately stopped by a maid because while the maids of the Mauve Palace wore a dark red robe with orange fringes, the maids at the Pearl Palace were all in white robes with khaki fringes. "What may I help you with?" the maid asked haughtily. She did, after all, work for the most powerful woman in the empire. Anya took in everyone walking around and the maid in front of her. "I come from the Mauve Palace. My lady was here earlier, and she left her fan." The maid gave Anya another haughty look. "Wait here. Don't dare stray." She walked back into the immaculate residence. On the other side of the building, she spotted two men, one wispy, the other tall with muscles he had fully covered in his short robe and pants. Why would the Grand Dowager concubine need to have someone of that stature in her employ? Another maid passed, and Anya stopped her. "Hey, can I ask you a question?" The maid looked at Anya with suspicion. "Yes, you guys here have the best robes. How does one get to work for the Pearl Palace?" she asked. The girl proudly stood up straighter. "You have to be the best worker. The Emperor took the best staff for himself. The others that the Emperor couldn't get are sent here." "Amazing. The quality of workers here makes it seem Her Highness only picks nobles. But why would she want such a muscly man in her employ?" Anya asked, while nodding toward the imposing figure in the far distance. "Tobin is in charge of the Pearl Palace security and carries out miscellaneous duties for Her Highness," the maid whispered to Anya. "And the wispy one? Jankin is the one in charge of all the maids in the Pearl Palace. He handles Her Highness's affairs." Voices were heard coming from the inside, and she remembered her duties, then walked away. Two men exited the Dowager's home, both looking familiar, and Anya realized it was because they resembled His Majesty in some way, the brown hair and jawline. She bowed to the princes, and they did not walk past but stood in front of her. "Rise, miss," a deep voice said. She rose but still kept her eyes down. "Look up at me." "I don't bite," he said teasingly. Anya looked up at the men, and they definitely related to His Majesty. "I have never seen you before. What is your name, and which palace do you serve?" The older of the two asked with interest. "My name is Anya, Your Highness, and I serve in the Mauve Palace," she said in a low voice, just loud enough for them to hear. The younger man looked at his brother with mischief. Both Tedric and Elliot had heard that the girl their brother was almost going to execute was given to his pregnant concubine as a gift. The young woman was really beautiful. Tedric wondered if his brother would have really gone ahead with her execution. The two men then continued on their way without a word. Anya released a breath she didn't know she was holding. The maid who went to look for the fan had been standing at a distance and saw the whole exchange between Anya and the two princes. "Here!" She shoved the fan angrily into Anya's hands. "Clear off! How dare you make eyes at their highnesses?" she said with a slight shrill. "Don't be an idiot. They were clearly making eyes at me, not me at them." Anya turned and walked away, leaving the maid shocked. "His Majesty should have executed you, impertinent wench," she shouted. Anya walked out of the Pearl Palace gates, her thoughts on the wispy man and the hulking one. They carried out miscellaneous duties for Her Highness. The words had sent a chill down Anya's spine. Did those duties include murdering people too? Anya was lost in her thoughts, her body automatically reaching the Mauve Palace. Those must have been the men who killed her brother and father. Not so much the wispy man, but definitely the bulky man. Even her father, who was not a violent man, could have never been attacked and killed by the thin man. Jankin couldn't have done the murdering, but she was sure he was very much involved. "I'm talking to you, Anya." Why are you ignoring me? Solove shouted. Anya snapped out of her thoughts. She was holding onto the fan tightly, and she looked at Solove's irritated face with her outstretched hand. Sorry, what did you say? Anya asked. I was telling you to hand over the fan and that her ladyship has been kind enough to offer us a day off tomorrow. You can leave in the morning and come back at sunset when the gate is about to close. Should you delay and miss the gate closing, Anya, you will be locked out and hence kicked out of the palace. She turned away with the fan. Anya followed and helped her ladyship get ready for the night at the circus. Ivetta's eyes were on Anya. The girl was useless to have around. Maybe tomorrow she would be locked out and left out. All the dowager was asking about during her visit had been Anya. After she had answered all her questions, she gave Ivetta a book to read while she laid back with her eyes closed. Is there something bothering you, madam? Your energy seems tight, Anya asked, knowing full well that the lady was greatly upset over something that happened over at the dowager's residence. There are creme puffs that I dearly love, which are baked in the city, she began. By the baker Thomas? Anya asked. The baker was the most famous in Dunbria. His famous creme puffs were sought after by peasants and nobles alike. Yes, it's good you know him. I want those tomorrow. Please grab them for me when you are coming back. It will please me very much if you do. I want the fresh ones especially, she said. The baker bakes the creme puffs in the morning and makes another fresh batch at sunset. Should Anya get the fresh ones she requests, she will definitely be locked out. Anya looked at her mistress in the mirror, and their eyes met. Her intent was clear. She wanted Anya out. Anya smiled slowly at her. Not to worry, my lady. You will have your freshly baked creme puffs at sunset. She continued to put pins in her lady's hair calmly. This simple trick will not be the one that made Anya leave the palace. Ivetta relaxed. The girl wasn't as smart as she looked, or else she would have known she wouldn't make it back to the palace in time. She spotted a silver moon pendant across Anya's neck. The piece was pure silver, something peasants weren't usually found with. You worship the moon goddess? It will be a full moon in a few days, Ivetta said. Yes, my lady, I do. Pity I haven't had the chance to worship since I came here. There is a little fall at the furthest end of the imperial garden. I'm sure it is clear as not so many worship Mwila, she suggested, knowing full well the girl would be out of here tomorrow. Thank you, my lady. I will keep that in mind. She finished helping the lady. The front row of the circus was occupied by the royal household. His Majesty was accompanied by his 10 concubines, the Dowager Grand Concubine, and the 2 princes. Anya and the other maids sat in a row behind. The performances wowed and dazed the audience. The last performance began with 2 fire breathers, and after a fire show, they lit up a ring, and a female horse rider came out. Anya held her breath at this. Slight flashes from her past came to mind. An act gone wrong. The horse rider stood on a horse running at a high speed, first on her 2 hands, then 1 hand. The act was dangerous and mesmerizing as the horse and rider moved as one. She then stood on 2 feet as she approached the ring. When people realized the stunt she was about to do, they gasped. She obviously couldn't make a horse pass through the ring that was not only a few feet off the ground, but was too small for the horse to go through. Unexpectedly, the rider jumped from the back of the horse and flipped in the air. People gasped audibly, and she passed through the ring of fire while still spinning, and then landed on her 2 feet. The crowd rose to a rancorous applause. The lady who landed a few feet from the front row bowed. A satisfied smile was on her lips. When Anya looked at her face, it was like a splash of cold air. She knew that face. Laura bowed to His Majesty, who clapped his hands with a smile. Last night, the circus had performed a smaller act for him and his senate. She looked around at the pampered concubines and the row right behind. There she spotted her face, the face that had been haunting her for over a decade. Her smile almost slipped. Anya wanted to get up and run. Laura bowed in her direction and walked off the stage. This was her last act ever in the circus, and when she reached the backstage, her former colleagues all burst out in applause. These were her family. She and Lyra were born here, but after 34 years of circus life, she had some mistakes she needed to fix. When the applause died down, Ava smiled in Aenor's direction. The horse rider looks exactly like Ivetta's pet. Aenor agreed and spoke loud for Anya to hear. Is she a relation, dear? His Majesty decided at that moment to stand up. Everyone hushed and stood up as well, bowing to the emperor as he left. The dowager followed closely behind, followed by the concubines and the princes. The maids were the last to leave before the crowd. As Anya was walking out, she was pulled to a dark corner unexpectedly. In a robe now, her makeup still not wiped off, stood Laura. Anya, she whispered, shocked at how much the girl looked much like her and her sister. What do you seek from me, woman? Anya said, shaking off Laura's hand, her composure completely shaken. Laura's words failed her. She had practiced the speech she would tell Anya over and over again. She just didn't plan on doing it tonight, And in a hurry. My lady is waiting for me. Anya turned to go. I came back for you, Laura blurted out in desperation. Anya stopped, a smirk covering her lips. Liar, Laura shook her head. I did, truly. I found you at the fabric merchant's shop 2 days later. Godwin and Cecily refused to give you to me. They said you were better off with them. Anya started to go away. She would not let anyone smear her parents' name. If they knew of her blood, they would have told her. Laura grabbed Anya's shoulder to stop her, and the hand was shrugged off once more. And they were right. Look at you. You have grown up safe and sound. Anya turned to her. I have, she said point-blankly. Laura's eyes strayed to Anya's neck, and there lay the solid silver moon. A sad smile covered her lips. This used to belong to your mother, she said while reaching out to touch the moon around Anya's neck, and she flinched away from her touch. Laura pulled away and removed her own moon, the empty outline of it. My mother gave Lyra and I these when we were kids. They are one of a full moon. I gave Cecily the half you wear when you turned 6. The Urani worship the moon god. I asked her to teach you to worship Mwila. I'm glad she did. A lump formed in Anya's throat. She remembered the day her mother gave her the pendant. She did tell her about Mwila and how she was her god from now on. You despised me. The tears Anya was holding back finally fell. I did. I admit I did. Because I blamed you for Lyra's death. Unjustly so, I know. But you were the person who I could blame at that time. Lyra was an amazing horsewoman, better than me, but after she had you, she slackened. She fell and died while performing an act she had done 1,000 times, flawlessly. I did hate you, but I regretted leaving you immediately we left the city, and I came back for you, Anya. And I continued to do so throughout the years, watching you grow at a distance. What do you want from me? The words she said were thick with emotion. Just to be part of your life, no matter how small you allow me to. Marjorie told me why you entered the Marble Palace. I don't approve of it, but my opinion is not important. I want to make amends. I want to help you. If not for your sake, but for Godwin and Cecily. I owe them so much. Marjorie knew about you? Anya asked, shocked. Laura looked away. She didn't want to make Anya's family look bad in any way. She does, and so did Milo. A memory came to Laura's mind. It was when Anya was still a child and was playing with Milo and being watched by Marjorie. The girl had overheard the day Laura found Anya and came to ask for her back. Anya had been oblivious to Laura's presence, flying a small kite with so much happiness. Happiness Laura had never seen on the child before. Milo had been alerted to Laura's presence by Marjorie's stormy looks. The then young Marjorie, followed by Milo, came to Laura. You stay away from Anya as Mama and Papa told you to. Milo, without knowing who the woman was but from his sister's words, concluded that she was not wanted, especially around Anya, added his threat. If you do not, I will gut you. He threatened. Laura had smiled and walked away, leaving Anya to grow up in a warm, loving home. I need to go. Anya turned to leave. I am the new director of Imperial Arts. If you need anything, you know where to find me. She shouted as Anya walked away, hoping with all her might the girl was going to come to her. Luckily, Anya found the concubines were not ready to leave, speaking about the performances excitedly while the emperor spoke to the people. As Anya was leaving the Marble Palace, she was happy to find Yuan on duty. I heard you have moved up in the world, he said with a playful smile. Do not believe everything you hear. I am still a servant, she returned with a genuine smile. How long will you be on duty? She asked him. Until the sunset when the gates close, he informed her. Anya looked away, thinking. It will be after sunset and after his shift ends when she arrives. What is it? Yuan asked with concern. I think my lady wants to get rid of me, she confided in Yuan. He wrinkled his eyebrow. Why? She took me in, thinking His Majesty will see her differently. It didn't work. Now I'm just an eyesore. I don't want to leave the palace, but if I am locked out at sunset, I will be automatically expelled. She wants fresh creme puffs from the baker Thomas. Yuan released a displeased laugh, shaking his head. Those are only made at sunrise and sunset. Can she be any more obvious with her intentions? These ladies of the harem are not really known for their smarts. Yuan laughed out loud, then added. I can remain here for an hour after my shift. If you can run back, then I will let you in, he assured her. Anya thanked him and signed the gate records. Solov came in right after she finished. As Anya left the gates, Solov shouted for her. Anya, my lady wants you to deliver this letter straight to her father, Lord Sance. Do it now. Anya looked at the letter with the red wax seal of Lady Yvetta. She gave you this to deliver? Anya said. If the lady wanted her to deliver it, she would have given it to her herself. And now I give it to you, Solov said proudly. She didn't want to be bothered to walk all the way to the other side of the city where the nobles stayed when she could send Anya, who wouldn't even come back. The letter was going to get delivered, and Anya would be gone. A complete win-win for Solove and her mistress. Of course, enjoy your day off, Solove, Anya said. Solove walked fast ahead of her without a word. They left the palace outer grounds. Anya, who had been walking at a slow pace, tore open the letter, wondering what was contained in it. For all she knew, the letter might be carrying her death sentence. His Majesty is having people carry out a thorough investigation of the departments, especially food reserves. Clean up everything that might incriminate you. Your loyal daughter. Anya stopped in her tracks, and a Cheshire cat smile covered her face. This was the leverage she needed. A happy jaunt was added to her step as she entered the city and went to visit her sister and brother-in-law. Tanner saw her first when he was about to enter the shop. Anya? He said happily. They embraced. It had been 4 months since they left her on the gates of the Marble Palace. You look well, he added. And so do you. I only came to see one tiny human, she said, entering the shop with a surprised Marjorie holding a small baby. Look, it's Auntie Anya, she whispered to the child. Anya embraced her sister and looked down at the small, red-cheeked boy. He is perfect, Marg, Anya whispered. He is. He looks just like Milo, Marjorie added. What is his name? Milo. Anya held back tears. A perfect name for him. I'm sure he will be a brave soldier, just like dear Milo. Marjorie hit Anya's hand. Ouch. What was that for? She asked. I heard you got in all sorts of trouble just after you arrived at the palace, disrespecting His Majesty and almost losing your head. Anya, Marjorie condemned. A misunderstanding. You had us worrying to no end. Your sister especially. She started making funeral arrangements for you, Tanner added. I'm sorry if I caused you to worry, but that insufferable man was walking around as an inner palace guard. He wouldn't even be bothered to wear the correct shoes and weapons as well. I couldn't help it, Anya complained. That is not any reason to provoke him, Anya, and you must speak with more respect about him. He is the emperor, you know, Marjorie chastised. Well, I'm alive and managed to enter the inner palace, so everything worked out well, didn't it? Anya regretted the words immediately they left her mouth, because both Tanner and Marjorie looked at her with regret and horror. They regretted letting her go ahead to join the Marble Palace. Anya had always been stubborn and mainly did what she wanted. Calm down, the both of you. I promise to behave from now on, she promised and meant it. She shifted the baby to her other shoulder. Marjorie looked at her husband, and he nodded. Marjorie took a deep breath. Anya, there is something I need to tell you. She knew what Marjorie wanted to say. I met her last night at the circus, Anya said quietly. I don't know Laura was approaching you so soon. I was hoping to tell. Why didn't you tell me all these years, Marg? Anya interrupted. To protect you? Mama and Papa wanted you to not ever feel like a web. But I did. And you knew I wasn't a web by blood. People out there whispered it loudly enough for me to hear, so I never had any illusions that we are not of the same blood. You are my sister, and now my only surviving relation. Marjorie's voice became more forceful. I am not questioning our bond, Marg, just why I was kept in the dark about her, and that she watched me grow up at a distance. What would you have preferred, Anya? Anya looked away from her sister's tear-filled eyes and shrugged. I don't know. Would you have wanted to go with her? Marjorie whispered the question, scared. Of course not. Of course not, Marjorie. I had the best of childhoods, and you, Mama, Papa, and Milo were the best family I could have had. Oh, I don't know, Marg. I'm just foolish and clueless as everyone says I am, Anya said, with fat tears falling out of her eyes. We all did what was best for you, Marjorie said in a low voice. Laura too? Anya asked with a sad smile. Laura too. She made a mistake in leaving you behind, but she thought of your welfare when she let Mama and Papa keep you. So I shouldn't hate her? No, Anya. She is your kin. You are kin, Marge. Your blood, Anya. Your blood. You will understand yourself and temperament if you spent some time with her. She wants to be part of your life and help you if you allow her. I will let her in, Marg, just because you tell me to, not because I want to, Anya admitted stubbornly. A sad look appeared on Marjorie's face. I think that's a good start, Tanner chimed in slowly. Anya looked down at the baby in her hands. He is so calm, she said with a smile. Yes, the calmest baby in Dunbria. Now tell me all about the inner palace, Marjorie said, wiping away her tears. Anya released a frustrated breath. Lady Yvetta wants to get rid of me, she confided. She had already written to her sister briefly about how she was moved to the Mauve Palace and her reasons for going there. Why? Tanner asked with concern. Anya explained how Yvetta saved her and the reasons for it. Marjorie scoffed. These fine ladies Didn't you correct her, Anya, that it was Madame Frida, not her, who saved you? Marjorie said with heat. Anya passed a look to Tanner, but spoke to Marjorie. Didn't you want me to be better behaved, sister dear? Oh, shut up, Anya. So what will you do? There is a guard I've befriended. Oh, and Gert, Milo's friend, promised to help. But back to the guard, Yuan said he'll help me by staying an hour longer on his post. But Baker Thomas starts to bake those creme puffs at sunset. Will there be enough time left over after? Marjorie asked with concern. An hour would hardly be enough still, as it was a great distance to the Marble Palace. It might if I take her on horseback, Tanner said. Anya then proceeded to tell them all she had found out about the Dowager's palace and workers. The place was airtight when it came to information, especially since she didn't have silver or gold to grease palms. What happens after you get back in, Anya? She will not stop trying to get rid of you. Anya pulled out the letter from inside her small cloth bag. I have insurance. Marjorie and Tanner put their heads close together while reading the letter, both shocked at the contents. This is not good for your lady if she is discovered, Anya, Tanner said after a heartbeat of quietness. Exactly. I will leave this here for safety. The missive is written in Lady Ivetta's hand, and that's her seal. There is no safe place I can conceal it in the Marble Palace. The day went on fast, and Anya was first at the baker's window to get creme puffs. Her lady had handed her 2 gold coins, excessive, especially since she only needed 6 coppers to purchase the creme puffs. Maybe in Ivetta's mind, the gold would be enough to soothe the peasant Anya after making her lose her livelihood. The sun had sunken, and darkness was descending slowly but steadily when she finally got the 6 creme puffs, and Tanner took her back to the Marble Palace. It was dark when they arrived, and Anya approached the guards while Tanner stood at a distance. Yes? The guard asked. I am seeking admittance, Anya said, her palms getting sweaty. What if Yuan failed to stay longer? The guard looked at Anya. Her red attire showed she was a maid in the Mauve Palace, and she produced a plaque to say so. You know the rules, wench. Clear off. May I speak to Yuan? She said, calling him by his first name. As a recorder, Yuan is a direct superior to the guards. They looked at each other. He is off duty. Come back tomorrow. No, you will go in and call Recorder Yuan Skulls. He is in. Yuan chose that moment to show up from the office, relief coating his features. Do we have a problem here, gentlemen? He asked. No, sir. The wench has violated curfew and does not have any special pass. She is on special assignment from the concubine Ivetta herself, the one who is carrying His Majesty's heir. You don't want to be the one to hold her maid back, do you? He asked the 2 guards, who looked at each other in fear. Of course not. They stepped aside and let Anya in, who nodded to Tanner before he rode off. Anya signed in her name in the daybook before Yuan closed it, and the night recorder signed at the bottom of her name and put it aside. A gold coin was slipped to the night recorder, who quickly pocketed it. Thank you, Yuan, Anya said gratefully. He gave her a small smile. What are friends for? He said, then walked away. Ivetta had a smile on her face. This was easier than she expected. Finally, things are going perfectly, Solove. Should anyone ask, we'll say the girl was too wild and left the palace on her own accord, she said with satisfaction. Very wise, my lady. And the letter? Did it reach my father? Ivetta asked her trusted maid. Yes, my lady. Good. She sat back and released a breath. Anya walked in at that moment, while Solove was lighting the lamps in the chambers of her ladyship. Pardon my tardiness, my lady, but I have the creme puffs, fresh as you requested, Anya said, gently placing them in front of Ivetta. Both Ivetta and Solove blanched, as if they had seen a ghost. How? Solove asked. How what? It was easy. I went to the Baker Thomas and purchased them as per my lady's request. Anya feigned ignorance. You weren't supposed to make it back. Yes, I figured that out when you requested for fresh creme puffs at sunset. His Majesty abhors bribes and will be very upset when he hears of this, as I'm sure you only entered this place by buttering someone's palms. You and the sordid guard will be let go, Ivetta spat, her mask finally falling off. Yes, His Majesty abhors all sorts of bribery, but we both know he hates traitors the most. Imagine how he will feel when he finds out that you have been sending messages to your father to warn him to cover up his corruption tracks. Ivetta looked at Solove in shock, whose eyes bulged out. Of course, I will be kicked out of the palace for missing curfew and bribing a guard. Will my head be put on a pike for that? I doubt it, but what I'm sure of is that Lord Sance and your brother, who I'm sure is taking part in the embezzling of funds, will be put on proper pikes. You, on the other hand, will have your life spared because you are his concubine and the mother of his child. But what life will you really have in the harem when all those vipers smell His Majesty's abandonment of you and disfavor? A pike will be better, methinks. Anya finished her threat. All the gloves were off. You have no evidence, is all Ivetta said in desperation. Really? Clean up everything that might incriminate you, your beloved daughter. Written in your hand and with your seal, my lady. What do you want? Gold? She said, in angry desperation. Anya laughed. No, I don't need gold. I just need you to cease your attack on me. I am loyal to those loyal to me. If you don't come after me, that letter will happily gather dust. Fine, Iveta said with a scratchy voice. Good. Now eat up those creme puffs, my lady. I went through a lot of trouble to get them for you, Anya said, and walked out. Iveta let out a large shrill. You F times traitor, you useless B times. I asked you to do one thing. Iveta picked up her teacup and threw it in Solov's direction. My lady, please, I beg your forgiveness. It was not my intention to disappoint you. Solov begged while dodging missiles of different types from her lady. Anya smiled while she stood outside. The emperor entered the residence, and she immediately knelt. The shrill voice of the concubine Iveta could be clearly heard by his majesty where he stood. Giroux looked at the maid Anya. What on earth is going on here? Her lady is displeased with the maid Solov, Anya said. It is a minor crime, your majesty, but pregnancy makes women hysterical at times, she said. Giroux didn't know what the little minx had done, but he was sure she was the cause of the gentle Iveta shrieking like a banshee. Iveta violently opened the door and pushed a begging Solove out, her hair undone from the beautiful setting it was, and tears streaking down her chin. Get out of my sight, you lousy dog, she shouted while pushing Solov out and froze when she saw his majesty. Lady Iveta, such behavior is not befitting a lady of the royal household, he chastised calmly. Iveta swallowed and immediately knelt. Your majesty, please forgive me for the state you find me in. Her voice dramatically reduced and softened. Giroux looked at Anya. Help your lady inside to compose herself, and you, pointing at Solov and the other maids, clean up the mess that I'm sure is inside, he commanded, and they all scurried away quickly. Anya helped Iveta up, and she was looking at her like a person looks at a venomous snake. Let me help you, my lady, Anya said, looking at her straight in her eyes. Giroux didn't miss the unspoken words, Anya's calmness and Iveta's fear of the girl. Stop, he said to the two women. My lady, is she causing you any trouble? I will not hesitate to punish her if she is the cause of your state, he promised her. Anya stepped away from Iveta. Iveta, on the other hand, weighed her options. Should she condemn Anya, her family was dead, and so was the little influence she had gathered in the harem. No, your majesty. Anya has been the perfect handmaid, hardly causing me trouble at all, Iveta conceded. Giroux looked at the spark of self-satisfaction in Anya's eyes, the same spark that was in the now director of Imperial Arts, Laura Stowe, after she completed her act last night. Very well, my lady. Please proceed. He let them go, and he entered the ladies' receiving chambers as the servants cleared off the mess created. They made quick work of everything, and had the place back in order. In the inner bedchamber, Anya put Iveta's hair back in place and cleaned her face. She was looking at Anya through her mirror in fear. No need to look at me like that, my lady. I am not a monster. I will protect you if you protect me, she said with a soft smile. Later, Iveta entered the receiving room and found His Majesty sitting back comfortably. He had spotted the creme puffs, and they seemed fresh. He wondered who defied curfew to get them. He didn't wonder any longer, as there was only one person in Iveta's palace who could do that. The old Iveta, the calm, composed Iveta, was back. Pardon me, your majesty, I had acted dishonorably. She bowed. He bid her to rise, and Iveta turned to Anya. Bring some of the delightful creme puffs here, will you, Anya? She bid her, and Anya obeyed. Giroux took a bite of one. He was right, they were fresh. Do you like them, your majesty? They are fresh, she said. Her glance went to Anya, and she softly nodded her head to discourage Iveta. Rightly so, the Mauve Palace had no night pass to leave the Marble Palace. Giroux didn't miss the subtle gesture. His initial instinct was right. Anya was involved in the earlier display. He could bet his entire empire on it. Giroux reached out to take Iveta's soft hand. My lady, you are the lady of the Mauve Palace, do not forget that, he said to remind her of her position. Anya might have been raised by the dunes, but her Urani blood pushed through. She was dominant and wild in nature, but he would not let a maid control his concubine. Thank you for the reminder, your majesty. Good. Now I am to leave you, my lady. In your condition, you need all the rest you can manage, especially after the earlier spectacle, he said while standing. His words made Iveta rise, then she bowed. Giroux looked up at his agitated brother. The dishevelment was completely out of character for Elliot. Elliot was easygoing and treated life like his playground. The young man, who was only 23, had no commitment to any wife or concubine. Elliot took his pleasure from various women, mostly other people's wives or concubines, which was a great worry for Giroux. What is the matter? He put his quill away before his impatient brother wore away his carpet. You appointed a woman as director of Imperial Arts. Why would you overlook me? You know how I enjoy the theater and all things entertainment. Elliot complained. How was I to know that you wanted to lead the department? Giroux calmly asked. His exterior was neutral, but inwardly he was happy. This was the first time Elliot was showing interest in anything of importance. Elliot thought about his brother's words and shrugged. I wanted to handle the department, Your Majesty, he said sheepishly. The job has already gone to someone else. An Urani woman, his voice came out squeaky. I didn't know you held any prejudices, Elliot. But yes, Madame Laura is an Urani, and I think she is the most qualified person to hold this department in the last 40 years. She has entertainment and performance in her bone marrow. Thancred entered the room, his hands as usual concealed in his robe. Let her in, Giroux said. Thancred walked out, and Laura walked in. Her eyes were heavily lined with black coal, making her green eyes stand out. Her dark hair was behind her head in a loose ponytail, a striking woman in stature and looks. She was wearing the robes donned by women but shorter in green with black pants under them. She bowed to Giroux. Your Majesty. Then she turned to Elliot, who had not taken his eyes off her. Your Highness, she said, a cockiness in her eyes, an attitude that Giroux recognized. I have been looking over a few things, Your Majesty, concerning the art center construction that has been halted. Is this a bad time? She asked, looking between the two brothers. No, go ahead, Giroux said. So the first thing I have been looking at is the overall cost. It is no secret that there was massive embezzling by the former director. In operations such as these, that is not uncommon. Many people always want to glaze at the top. What are you going about? You mean to say you condone corruption and theft? Elliot asked, shocked. The woman was preposterous. Her outfit screamed a snub to tradition and local custom. Of course not, Your Highness. What I am saying is that these things are to be expected. It's important to put up a facade that any embezzling will not be tolerated, as His Majesty has rightly put, but it will still be done. The former director, however, didn't only glaze the prices of things, he caked them. The costs are 4 times the actual market price. After going through the accounts and the money that is currently allocated, which he claimed won't be enough, we can proceed with the construction of the art center. Giroux was surprised by her words. The art center was slowly becoming something he was regretting commissioning, seeing the amount of gold that had been sunk into it. Tell me more. It is just as simple as that, Your Majesty. The funds available will be enough. I will have to hire new suppliers, but this center will be done this time next year, she said. Isn't that too ambitious? And how will you find the qualified people to work with? I know people who know many people in Dunbria, Your Majesty. I considered also changing the location of the stage of the play hall, she said, straightening the large paper she came with on the table. Pardon me, Your Majesty. Giroux stood up to look at the plan. Nothing new was on it, so he waited for her to speak. This is the old plan. The way it is designed, the artists will have to spend years to paint the stage to not make it plain. But if we move it to face the river on this position, she pointed at a place on the paper. The river will create a backdrop, and we will not need to have a rooftop. The night skies will be our mural. And in the times when the moon is present, picture this, Your Majesty, an opera being performed with the moon in the background, rising and illuminating over the river Bria. She painted the visual picture. So no opera in the rain or winter seasons? He asked. For the time being, yes. But the hall will hold another theater which will hold a good amount of people. The outside one, Your Majesty, is for a large crowd. If you approve my plans, then I will be able to put up a production with the next full moon, she said. Giroux went back to his seat and looked out at his brother. Even Elliot was impressed. Very well. You may go ahead. My brother here will be happy to work as your deputy. You have vast experience he can learn from. Laura looked over at the young man. So long as he kept out of her way while she worked, she would be fine. Thank you, Your Majesty, but working closely with Madame Laura, I'm afraid what her husband might think, Elliot said sheepishly. He won't say a thing, Your Highness. Because I belong to no man, Your Majesty. I will be happy to work with His Highness. I'm taking on something ambitious, and I will need all the help I can get. If you will excuse me, I will go and proceed with the plans. Laura bowed to Giroux. You know where to find me, my lord. She said the words to Elliot with a twinkle in her eye. The young man was completely enchanted with her. After she left, Giroux watched his brother closely. Laura did flirt with Elliot at the end, but she was too much for him. She is not like the usual woman you trifle with, Elliot. She will chew you up and spit you out, he warned the younger man. Brother, I will die a happy man if a goddess like her does chew me and spit me out, he said, still looking at the empty door as if she would appear in it again. And you are happy to work under her? He clarified. I am. You are right. She seems to know much more than I do, and is very qualified. I will learn a lot from her. Good, then you should go and see where your help is needed, don't you think? Giroux reminded him. Elliot left with a smile on his face. a completely different look he had when he came in, and Giroux shook his head, getting back to his reports. Ava walked into Aenor's residence, who was sitting in a bathtub full of goat's milk. She bowed to the bathing lady and took a seat. "To what do I owe the honor, Lady Ava?" Aenor asked. Ava smiled. "Did you hear the news, my lady?" Aenor cast a passing glance at the young concubine. She was too perky, which made her exhausted at times. "No, but I'm sure you haven't come all this way to let me guess," she said lazily. "His Majesty might promote Lady Iveta to Grand Concubine. She will be your equal in rank." Aenor clenched her fist under the milky water. "Is that so? When will this be done? If she has a son." Aenor chuckled and closed her eyes. "Well, you must be worried then, Lady Ava." Ava sat up. She thought the news would disturb the lady, not entertain her. "Me? Why?" "This affects you, my lady." "Does it? I had a daughter and was made a grand concubine. Lady Iveta will become grand concubine if she has a son. How is that a disadvantage to me? But to you, Lady Ava, you need a child to cement a position in this harem, or you will be like all the forgotten, possibly barren concubines in the harem," Aenor told her silkily. Ava sat back. His Majesty hardly visited her, once every fortnight to be specific. Considering that there were 11 concubines and 4 ladies in waiting, it was not a bad number, but it had been every week in the beginning. "Lady Iveta and yourself only managed to become with child years after you joined His Majesty's harem," she said. "Yes, but His Majesty was hardly ever around and used to go about fighting wars. There is no reason none of you are not with child right now. It will be a pity if your womb was like a desert." Aenor knew how to scare and frighten people. She had been in the harem longer than the young woman. Her child might not survive, as you rightly put it. "Yes, the harem has a very high mortality rate. It is important that women are careful with what they eat," she said, veiling the suggestion. Aenor was happy that the young woman had gotten the idea. "I'm sure, Lady Aenor, that you do not wish to share your esteemed title with anyone else." Aenor gave Ava a weak smile, agreeing with her. Her title was the only thing that separated her from the other concubines. "Then maybe we should invite Lady Iveta for some tea and a calm chat," she suggested. If they could poison the infant Iveta was carrying, then it would resolve a lot of both their problems. "Good day, Mother," Tedric greeted his mother, whom he found with Elliot. "Nothing is good about this day. Yesterday your brother disgraced Elliot," she said, her bottom lip shaking. "Oh please, Mother, enough of this. I don't mind being Deputy Director of Imperial Arts," he said. He came to check on his mother before going to undertake his new duties. The work was tiring and consuming but satisfactory. Laura had an energy about her that rejuvenated everyone around her. She was not like anyone he had ever worked with in Dunbria, not that he had done much work. "I love my job, if you would know," he defended. Tedric snorted. Elliot was the most unmotivated person he had ever met. Him having a job was a joke he would laugh to for years to come. "What is the huge worry, Mother? At least he is keeping busy," Tedric joined the defense. "And under a foreign woman at that? Is that how low he considers you?" she asked. Elliot, not willing to hear more, got up, bowed to his mother and left. Hyra looked at her oldest son. "This wouldn't have happened if you were emperor." Tedric sat up and looked around. Only Jenkin was around. The eunuch had served his mother for many years. "I wish you would quit with that." "Why?" "Giroux stole your birthright. His mother induced birth for him to be born early. You should have been emperor." "Stop living in the past, Mother, and besides, I don't want to be emperor." Tedric told his mother. He had 25 concubines. He would have to give up the concubines to only 15. Being emperor meant he would have to be watched closely by everyone. There were things he wished not to come to light. "You must think beyond your cock, Tedric," she whispered harshly, knowing full well her son did not wish to be emperor because of his private reasons. "No, Mother, you must be the one to think beyond your greed. If you continue to speak of this, we will both be executed for treason," he said seriously. Whether it was true he was meant to be emperor was not important to Tedric. Keeping the position he has right now, of being the governor of the biggest and most peaceful district in the empire, and the privileges it came with, is all that is important to him. "Maybe it will be better if you came back to my home with me," he told her slowly. Keeping her away from power might temper her ambitions. "And leave the marble palace?" she scoffed. "To look at your whores and many brats all day? I think not. I am the closest thing to empress this empire has." "I will not abandon my position," she said stubbornly. "Those brats are your grandchi?" Tedric paused and shook his head. "You know what? Good day, Mother. I have more important things to do than spend my time with a shriveled old grape like yourself." He bit back and walked away, hitting his mother where it hurts the most, and that is her vanity. Hera remained and touched her face. She was a great beauty in her day, but time and the coming of these new concubines reminded her how old she had become. To hear the rebuke from her son had hurt her greatly. Why are all my boys foolish, Jenkin? She asked the man who had been standing as silent as a statue during the whole exchange with her sons. Children most times do not know what it is they want. It is the parents' duty to pave a future for them, even if they refuse it now, he advised. Ira sat back and thought. They will not hate me if I proceed to secure their futures? Why is Her Highness doubting herself now? We have tried this before, albeit unsuccessfully. We can do it again, more successfully this time. Hira shook her head. No, not a careless direct attack like last time. We need to be smart. Tedric has something Giroud doesn't, and that's an heir. He has many sons. If we continue to make sure no son is born from Giroud, then his power will weaken year after year, and soon enough he will be overthrown, and Tedric will be chosen as emperor, she said. Very wise, Your Highness. We have work to do then, especially with the Lady Iveta, he said. Oh, another invitation, my lady, Solove said. Her crime was slightly forgiven. She had been with Iveta for more than a decade, when her ladyship was just a young lady. This is surprising, Iveta said with excitement. She had never been this popular before. Anya was straightening the room around and looked at the excited Lady Iveta. Do you think they all want to seek favor from you because of your rumored promotion? Solove asked. I would be very careful with the invitations if I were you, my lady, Anya cautioned. Well, you are not her ladyship, Anya, so mind your own business, Solove said. Anya ignored the maid. My lady, your child is a threat to everyone in the harem. These invitations are not peppered with good intentions, she warned. Iveta saw the sense in Anya's words. The deaths of children and concubines in the harem cannot be discounted as normal. She went through the invites and pushed most aside, remaining with only 2. I cannot ignore these. One is from the Lady Aenor, and the other from the Dowager Grand, she said. Don't eat anything from them when you do visit, my lady. With Aenor, yes, I understand your caution, Anya. But with the Dowager Grand? That is ridiculous, she said. Anya stepped closer to her ladyship. Her son, Prince Tedric, has 6 healthy sons. He and His Majesty are only a week apart. Who do you think will benefit the most if His Majesty continues to not have a son and loses the support of his Senate because he has no heir? She spoke plainly in a low voice. The ladies in the harem might not have love for each other, but they all love the emperor. Iveta's eyes widened. She never thought of that. The fact that Anya had concluded it meant the girl was smarter than she had given her credit. How do you suggest I handle the tea I am having with the Dowager, and later with Lady Aenor? My lady, you cannot be taking her seriously? Solove complained. Hush, Solove. Iveta spoke to the maid in irritation. Just like Solove, she didn't like Anya, but the girl seemed to be thinking of ways to protect her unborn child. You seem queasy with most foods, my lady. Just deny all their offers and blame it on the child that grows in you, Anya supplied. A smile coated Iveta's face. No one would take offense if she refused the food with that excuse. Maybe it would not be a bad idea to keep Anya around, she reasoned. Anya slowly passed through the Imperial Garden, and the torches provided enough light to see a lot of things. The weather had a biting cold to it, but she had to do the night ritual of dipping in a natural pool at midnight every full moon. In the garden at a distance, she spotted His Majesty sitting alone with 2 guards at a distance. She quietly made her way past without seeking his notice and reached the pool. She heard the sound of falling water before anything else, and when she reached it, Anya gasped. The place looked ethereal, with the full moon shining, and the calm pool under a small waterfall. She quickly disrobed and dipped in the water, fully going in, coming out later to take in a deep breath. The water was stinging her skin, and she ran to her clothes, quickly pulling on her warm robes and warm shoes. She took the path she took before, and squealed when she ran into the hard body of His Majesty. Anya cursed under her breath and quickly bowed. With her cold body, the meeting was highly inconvenient, especially since she wanted to go straight to her chambers to get warm. Your Majesty, she murmured. He really does turn up at the most inconvenient times, she thought. Giroud didn't miss the hint of irritation in Anya's voice. He reached out and touched her wet, dark midnight hair. Where are you from? He asked. Worshipping Your Majesty, she said, her head looking down. He was close enough that Anya could smell the cloves and pine on his clothes, coupled with his clean musky scent. Anya looked up at him, and he bit his jaw hard, then stepped aside to let her pass. His attraction to her grew violent every time he saw her. Even if he had been denying it to himself in the beginning, his strained cock was testifying otherwise. Wouldn't you like to taste the warm cakes, Lady Iveta? They are straight from the oven, and I heard you have developed quite the sweet tooth, Aenor said while superficially fanning herself. Last night, His Majesty had come to her palace, and she hadn't felt him display such need in a long time. If things went well, then she might be with child soon. Iveta smiled and shook her head. Thank you, Your Highness, but I have to say, I am quite over sweet things. They all of a sudden make me ill, she returned. Really? Won't you even try some? Lady Aenor's cook went through a great deal of trouble to make them fresh for you, Ava encouraged. The cakes had been laced with sepia. The cuttlefish extract was very hard to come by. Iveta might not miscarry immediately, but she would if she consumed it enough times. So they had to invite her over some more. Thank you. And I apologize for being ungracious, but I do not want to empty my stomach all over your fine table setting. She declined once more. Then you must have some tea. We will not add sugar to it, Aenor said, while biting into one of the cakes. The tea had dried leaves of parsley, and the herb trader assured her that if taken enough, a miscarriage might happen. Yes, I think I will indulge in that. Anya, please give me my tea box, she said. Aenor and Ava exchanged a look. Iveta suspected them of foul play. You seem to have come prepared, Lady Iveta. It is almost like you do not trust my food, Aenor accused. You said it yourself, Lady Aenor. This harem has a terrible history when it comes to expecting mothers. Speak plainly, Lady Iveta. Are you accusing me of anything? Aenor's temper flared. Ava looked on at the two women. I am not accusing you of anything, my lady, Iveta countered. I hope not, because it would be foolish for you to do so. I might be friendly with you, Iveta, but always remember that I am your superior, Aenor reminded her. Not for long, Iveta said under her breath, but everyone in the room heard. Aenor froze at Iveta's words. Anya looked down, wondering why her lady would expose her cards like this. How far along are you in your pregnancy, Iveta? Aenor asked while sitting back in her chair proudly. Her question was met with silence from Iveta. Ava took it upon herself to answer. I believe it is 4 full moons, Your Highness. Aenor released a short laugh. So 5 more full moons to your child's delivery. It can be a girl or dead. Pregnancy is an unpredictable affair, Iveta. Take it from someone who had a child successfully, she slowly said. Is that a threat, Lady Aenor? I'm sure His Majesty will be happy to hear of it, Iveta asked in an equally low voice. Anya wished Iveta would shut up. A threat? From me? Aenor feigned surprise. Did you hear me threaten her, Lady Ava? No, my lady. I only heard you give her ladyship stellar advice on pregnancy and motherhood, Ava said, and Aenor held her chest in mock hurt. I invite you to my home, Lady Iveta, to share some advice and comfort, yet you come in here and accuse me of trying to poison you, and then of threatening your child. Indeed, I'm sure His Majesty would like to hear of such preposterous accusations, Aenor said with indignation. Iveta flinched. Aenor still remained the Emperor's favorite concubine, and her words would carry much weight, more than hers. Anya looked on at the show in front of her. Lady Iveta's folly was that she tended to play her cards too soon. At the first taste of advantage, she did not hesitate to show everyone her good fortunes. My apologies, Lady Aenor, it must be the pregnancy muddling my brain, she said, swallowing her pride, wondering if she had misread Aenor and all she had were good intentions. She turned slightly to look at Anya. The little witch might be trying to sabotage her somehow. Indeed, Lady Iveta. Since you do not want my show of hospitality, you may leave, Aenor said, flicking her hand, dismissing her. The act in itself was meant to cause shame to Iveta as she was being chased like an erring dog, especially in front of servants. Iveta calmly got up and left with Anya closely behind. The more Iveta thought about it, the more foolish she felt for believing Anya. She could toss the girl out by her ear, but there was the pesky matter of the letter. Yesterday, she wrote another one to warn her father, and made sure Solove delivered it to him. When they reached the Mauve Palace, Iveta didn't bother to enter. Go in and collect my shawl. I want to take a walk in the Imperial Gardens. Anya walked in to get the shawl, and Iveta motioned for Solove to come closer. I am going to take Anya away. Look for that damned letter. I can't stand the sight of that little B*** any longer, she spat. Right away, my lady. Solove bowed and stood aside. I want to collect some fresh rose petals in the garden as well. I want to make perfume with them, Iveta informed Anya, who quickly went to collect a small basket, and the two made their way to the gardens. How is your work going along, Elliot? Giroux asked his brother. It was just past midday, and the younger man seemed to have decided to be done with his duties, never mind everyone else was working from sunrise to sunset. Tiring, Your Majesty. I have never been this tired ever, he whined. Tedric wrinkled his eyebrows. Have you been working all night, Elliot? He asked with surprise. Elliot sat up and grabbed some grapes. All night? He scoffed. I would positively die if I did. Not even donkeys work for that long. I was working from morning. Was at the site at exactly sunup, he said proudly. Tedric and Giroux exchanged a look of shared mirth. My, oh my, how exhausted you must be. You have been working all morning, all bloody morning. Tedric clicked his tongue in mockery. Elliot really was the laziest human he had ever come across. I am assuming all the hard workers that were at the worksite also cut off their work at midday, Madame Laura especially? Giroux asked. Elliot sat up straighter at the mention of Laura. That woman works like she is no woman at all, he said, mesmerized. And so does everyone else. No one is human at that place, he finished. Tedric shook his head and looked at Giroux. Mother was in vapors that you made her soft boy work under the Urani woman, he commented. Giroux chuckled. Imagine him heading the Department of Imperial Arts. Everyone will be home, and no work will be done after midday. I took that job under the illusion of being a special friend to Laura. All she does is look at me with pity and ask me if I need a rest, Elliot said in irritation, much to his brother's merriment. A maid poured wine for Tedric and gave him a saucy smile. Giroux was amazed at how the ladies easily fell for his brother. The man had many concubines and did not seem to want to stop anytime soon. If there was one thing that Giroux was envious about his brother, it was his easiness with women and their easiness around him. When they see Giroux, they bow and scrape with fear, and others with admiration of his position. She grew up in a world that is different from yours, Giroux said absent-mindedly. I know, but I thought we had some sort of connection, Elliot said mostly to himself. Speaking of women, I saw the most enchanting woman at Mother's palace the other day. Can I have her as my concubine, brother? Tedric asked. Giroux smiled. Really? Who is this wench that has captured your attention? He asked with mild interest. Tedric was good company to keep around. His brothers always lightened his heart. Dark-haired beauty with the most enchanting green eyes. I believe she works in the Mauve Palace. Giroux's smile fell immediately. Not her, he said dismissively. Why? You have given me any wench I've asked for. I am particularly taken with this one. Well, brother, I would advise you to untake yourself away from her. She is not available to anyone, he said seriously. Elliot and Tedric exchanged a look. They had never seen Giroux be taken with a wench like this. All his life he had been all about being the crown prince and the army. Their father put particular pressure on him to spend his time studying or training. As such, his people skills were not really the best. Giroux ran everything like an army commander. That is all he has ever known for a long time. He preferred to marry women who were submissive to him and leave him alone, the docile women. So the attraction to the firecracker, that is the Urani maid, did not make sense to him, hence he didn't make a move on her. Speak of the devil, Elliot said as Anya appeared with Lady Iveta. They seemed to be looking at roses and plucking some. When Iveta spotted His Majesty and his brothers, her face lit up. The two women walked to the men, and Iveta bowed while the two princes stood at her assent. My lady, what a glorious day we have. A rare warm day, in this cold weather. Please join us for a cup of tea, Tedric said. Iveta smiled widely and took her seat while Anya stood back with the other servants. Say, miss, is the Madame Laura by any chance a relation of yours? Elliot paused and sucked in air. You have a striking resemblance to her. All attention turned to Anya, who wanted to blend in, especially since His Majesty was around, and especially since last night. Their meeting was charged with something she couldn't explain or begin to understand. Iveta looked away in spite. None of them had even asked her about her child, nor had His Majesty inquired how she was faring. The wench, Anya, had once more managed to get the attention of everyone present. Yes, she is my aunt, Anya answered, hoping the young man would abandon his questioning. It was Giroux who spoke next. How are you faring today, my lady? He asked Iveta. The smile returned to her lips. Quite well, Your Majesty. As usual, I am being very well taken care of. So you grew up in a circus as well? Elliot asked Anya again. No, Your Highness. I grew up in Dunbria, but yes, I was born in the circus, she answered once more. Tedric watched his brother's sudden discomfort at the presence of the girl. This was truly something new and interesting for him. Giroux usually made other people uncomfortable, not the other way around. Anya, would you go ahead and finish collecting the roses? Iveta said. Elliot looked a little disappointed. He would rather talk to Anya than the mild Iveta. He had always found his brother's choice of companions bland. Iveta would surely break into conversation about something proper and boring, completely putting a damper on what was panning out to be a perfectly relaxing afternoon. Tedric turned his attention to his younger brother, who now seemed deeply uncomfortable. Elliot had always expressed his dislike for noble ladies like Iveta, and avoided them like the plague. Lady Iveta, I hear your two younger sisters are now of age. Elliot here will be ready to take his first wife soon, Tedric added, much to his satisfaction, as the look on Elliot's face was beyond fear. Yes, Josette turned 17 this year. She is an accomplished beauty, Iveta supplied. Her sister was indeed beautiful, and her family wanted to send her here to the harem should Iveta fail to produce an heir or any child. Her father wanted a strong foothold in the Marble Palace. Tell me, my lady, is your sister by any chance as mild and calm as you are? Elliot asked, trying to hold back his horror. Very much so, sir. Josette's impeccable manner puts me to utter shame, Iveta proudly recommended. She certainly didn't want to share His Majesty with her sister. That is absolutely fantastic, my lady. It is very good news, he added happily on the surface, but cringing inside. Anya came back at that moment and quietly took her former position. The basket was full of roses. Iveta would not let the conversation drift back to her maid, so she quickly got up, hoping Solov had enough time to search for the letter. They said their goodbyes, and Iveta made sure to walk extra slow on their way back. Anya quietly walked beside her lady without complaint. Her ladyship, on the other hand, was wondering what was going through the young woman's mind, what her real objective was in the Marble Palace. Somehow, Iveta didn't believe she came here just for work. The new favorite, 4 concubines and 1 lady-in-waiting, had visited Lady Iveta's home. News of her second tea with the Dowager and her time in the garden with His Majesty and his brothers over the past 4 days had made her a popular woman. For her to sit with His Majesty and his brothers meant she was quite favored by him, and as such, everyone now wanted to get close to her. Iveta sat proudly in her chair. Although she still had to endure Anya's presence because Solov never found the letter, at least she was the new popular concubine in the harem. Among the women who had paid her a visit these last few days, Lady Ainor had not been one of them. This suited Iveta because the fact that Ainor had been scarcely seen meant she had retracted to her shell. Iveta believed Ainor's previous tea invite turned into a disaster, mainly because Anya had planted foolish thoughts in her head. The following day, when Iveta went to have tea with the Dowager, she made sure not to carry the prejudices and suspicions she had held against Ainor the previous day. This time around, the Dowager had been attentive to Iveta, and Anya never came up. Iveta was told that whenever she needed the Dowager, the Pearl Palace was open to her. That was a grand invitation by Her Highness, who had been kind and gracious. Iveta needed to get rid of the poison that was Anya. I heard the construction of the new theater at the Imperial Arts is almost finished. Much praise is being heaped on the Urani woman, the lady-in-waiting Lily commented. She is very efficient in her duties, much to the joy of His Majesty. I heard that there is a new infusion of performers and artists who are being drilled and trained by the Urani. She runs the place like a military base. The opening of the theater next full moon is going to be amazing, I'm sure, Lady Lila said. Anya entered the room and whispered to Iveta. The news she shared was not very pleasant. Announce her, Iveta said with slight irritation. Anya let the ladies in. The grand concubine Ainor and Lady Ava, Anya said as the two entered. The women all rose and bowed to Ainor. Lady Iveta, I didn't know we were having a little party, and to not invite me. How ungracious, especially since I make sure to include you in everything happening at the Saffron Palace. Are you holding a grudge against me, perhaps? Ainor said, while taking a seat and nodding for the other ladies to sit as well. Never, Your Highness. This isn't a party, but just an impromptu, unplanned gathering. I hope you are well today? Iveta asked. Indeed, Ainor murmured. We were just talking about the theater, how grand it will be once it is done. Lila informed her. Yes, everyone is abuzz about the place. Performers from far and wide are flocking to join the Imperial Arts. Madame Laura is said to be very strict and wanting only the best. I would love to see a performance today. However, Madame Laura insists that we can only see it this coming full moon. Ainor laid the words smoothly. Ava smiled. Have you asked her, Lady Ainor? I'm sure she can't say no to you. I have, and she did. Can you imagine? She said no to me, the Emperor's favorite. The audacity. Ainor finished, laying the trap. It was a known fact, though not expressly stated by His Majesty, that the Imperial Arts were to be left alone until the unveiling next full moon. She had said this to see who was the audacious fool to actually go and harass Madame Laura for a private performance. Maybe, my lady, you are not the Emperor's favorite as you believe you are, Ava added to the ploy. Ainor smiled sharply, with a fake bitterness in Ava's direction. Both ladies were almost disappointed no one took the bait. They must have heard the Emperor's wish. I could get a few performers here tonight. I'm sure Madame Laura will be more than happy to release them. Iveta was the one who spoke. She seemed to be the only one who had not heard the Emperor's words, or was foolish enough to ignore them. The other ladies at the table looked at each other with satisfaction. Iveta seemed to be flying too close to the sun. Her wings would be melting soon, and they wanted a front-row seat to watch it. That would be brilliant, Lady Iveta. But if Lady Ainor couldn't convince the Urani woman, how can you be able to? Let's not forget you are merely a concubine, while Lady Ainor is a full rank above you, Lily added to the trap. Nothing motivates more than a bruised ego. Merely a concubine? Let me remind you, Lady Lily, that I am carrying the heir to Dunbria, Iveta said defensively. Might be carrying. Might. Lady Iveta? Ava countered. Iveta looked to Solov and whispered instructions to her. The other ladies didn't have the secret weapon that she had, and that was Anya. The Urani woman was her aunt and couldn't possibly say no to her. Solov nodded and left the room, a satisfied Iveta announcing to her fellow concubines. We will be having a small show here at the Mauve Palace. I wouldn't miss it if I were you. We will be having it at sunset. All the women were quiet, carefully not trying to inform Iveta of her folly. It is a shame I will be missing it. I'm spending the night with His Majesty, Aenor said with satisfaction. She wasn't expecting Iveta to be the one to fall into the laid trap, but the woman had never been smart. I'm sure you will see the performance lights from your palace window, Lady Aenor, Iveta added. This would undoubtedly prove that her power had grown in the marble palace. The Imperial Arts Center. Solove found Anya outside weeding the flower garden. Anya, her ladyship wants you to go to the Arts Center and talk to Madame Laura. Tell her Lady Iveta is terribly bored and would want some performers at sunset to entertain her, she said, giving Anya the gate pass. Anya looked up. The sun might be shining, but it was acting as a mere light source. The weather was cold. Now? Anya asked. No, her ladyship will wait for you to do it at your convenience, Solove sarcastically spat. Anya got the gate pass and dusted herself off before setting off outside the palace. The Arts Center being constructed was not far off from the Marble Palace. It was stationed at the edge of the outer boundaries of the palace grounds. The walk was not long. Yuan was not on duty, so Anya did not linger when she passed. When she arrived at the center, the place was a hive of activity, a far cry from the quietness of the Marble Palace. Various performers were training. Standing at a distance with them was Prince Elliot, not dressed in his usual expensive clothing, but in simple working clothes. Laura stood at the other side, looking over sheets of paper on a table, and speaking to a wide-girthed man. When Anya reached the table, the man stepped away and went to the construction site. The grounds in front of them held ring dancers, gymnasts, and fire-breathers alike, all trying to polish their skill. Laura looked up from the papers, and a smile coated her face. Anya, I didn't expect to see you here, she said, noticing the girl's partial attention to the performers. Yes, I have come at her ladyship's bidding. She wants a few performers at her palace at sunset, Anya said, while being drawn closer to the performers. Laura didn't say anything, her attention on her niece. The girl was a beauty. Anya took her attention away from the performers and looked at her aunt when she didn't hear anything from her. Hasn't her ladyship heard what His Majesty said? Laura asked. Yesterday it had been the grand concubine Aenor. Now it was Lady Iveta. His Majesty said something? Anya asked, surprised. The last time she crossed paths with the man had been in the garden, and she had made it a point to avoid him at all costs. He did. He explicitly said, "We are to train without interruption from others," she said. Anya's whole attention had been on the Pearl Palace, wondering what she could do to get information as to how she could get close enough to avenge her family. Did he? She asked, wondering why Lady Iveta would want to act contrary to His Majesty. But Solove insisted on it. Could this be a trap laid for her? But to what end? No, this was not her trap. Yes, yesterday it had been the grand concubine Aenor. She sent an express apology for her disturbance this morning, though. Well, her ladyship probably supposed that since she is receiving the Emperor's attention, she will be heard more favorably. Elliot walked towards the two women. Anya bowed to the smiling prince. Good day, Your Highness. Good day, miss. Lovely day it is that I am graced with two Urani beauties, Elliot said, most of his compliment going to the older woman. He had been working hard these days to impress her. You overpraise, Your Highness, Anya answered. I do not. I never give compliments as mere lip service. I mean what I say, Elliot answered her. He could see why his brother was making her off limits. She was a stunning beauty. There was something about Urani women that made you want to possess them. Anya is here on her ladyship's bidding to have some performers at her palace at sunset. Elliot scoffed. Even His Majesty himself hasn't requested that. Anya thought about the prince's words, thinking that maybe His Majesty hadn't asked because he was a sadist who preferred to see other people miserable. So what do I tell her ladyship? Tell her she will have 2 fire breathers and 3 dancers tonight at sunset. Let her set everything up for them, Laura said. Her ladyship needs to be shaken up a bit. Thank you, Anya said. Elliot looked at Laura like she had grown 2 heads, but he held his tongue. The woman was a formidable force he did not want to argue with. I will walk you back, Anya, Laura said. Anya bowed to Elliot, and he walked back to the performers. As the 2 women walked, Anya was the first to break the silence. You will get in trouble for this, Anya said, referring to the performers she would be sending to the Mauve Palace. Laura smiled. I will receive a strongly worded letter from His Majesty to not let any of the performers perform before the grand reveal. But his words, yes. His Majesty never told me not to let anyone perform. He told his harem not to bother the imperial arts until we are ready to perform on the night of the full moon. Lady Aenor knew that and immediately came to apologize, and hence the news won't reach His Majesty as her request came before His Majesty's decree. But Lady Iveta seems to want to ignore it. You know she will get into trouble, Anya said. A devious smile appeared on Laura's face. Yes. What argument do you have with the lady? Anya inquired. None whatsoever, but she seems to want to make you suffer. Anya paused while walking and looked at her aunt. Why would you think that? Lady Aenor's maid was brought here by horse and carriage. You came by foot, and the fringes of your petticoat and your nails are caked with mud. Anya looked down at her fingers she would have to clean properly. I am a servant, she simply said, as Laura took both her hands in hers. You are a handmaid, not a gardener. Did she beat you? Laura inquired. Anya pulled back her hands and continued to walk. A smile appeared on her face. Not at all. Her ladyship despises me, because when she took me into the Mauve Palace, I did not bring her the image she thought I would, of a kind, patient woman. And when she tried to have me expelled from the Marble Palace, I came upon her letter to her father to clean up the evidence of his corruption. I am threatening her with it. Laura laughed out loud. You are a Urani through and through. What about the Godwin and Milo's killer? All I know for sure is that the killers are in the Pearl Palace, but I don't know how to get to them yet. Anya's smile dropped. So the Dowager did it? Maybe, but everyone involved will pay. I will keep an ear to the ground for you, Laura said when they reached the gates and turned back, a serious expression on her face. The Grand Magistrate. There were horse hooves clomping on the paved ground of the inner palace behind Anya. She stopped to step aside, lowering her eyes, as the only people who rode horses in the Marble Palace were high-ranking soldiers and nobles, apart from His Majesty and his family. Good day, Miss Anya, the low, familiar male voice asked. Anya looked up at the man who spoke to her. It was the Grand Magistrate Percival, Rolf. Good day, my lord, she answered, still trying to place where she met him. I trust you are well, he asked. I am, thank you. I did not thank you for your help last time with His Majesty, my lord, Anya said. Rolf smiled. The girl did not remember him, and he was surprised that she still wasn't betrothed to anyone, as her hair was absent of the 3 gold beads of betrothal. You don't remember me, do you? He asked with interest. No, I am afraid my memory has failed me, my lord. Red dots appeared on Anya's cheeks, making her look more attractive. Percival got down from his horse. I believe we once met a year ago in the Dunbria market, while you were making consultations about your father and brother. I was the local magistrate at the time, he reminded her. Realization came over Anya. Yes, I remember you now, my lord. I never imagined the next time we meet will be in the Marble Palace. Me neither, he said, as they proceeded to walk toward the Mauve Palace. I'm sorry about how I acted at the time. I was very inconsiderate, he said. Anya tried to think back at their conversation at the time but came up blank. Everything seemed hazy on that day. Everything is forgotten, my lord. Literally, they reached the gates of the Mauve Palace, and Anya stood. Again, my lord, thank you for all the help you rendered last time. I can't seem to thank you enough, she said. The gate opened at the moment he wanted to say something, and 2 sedan chairs came out. One had a saffron color on it, yellow, and the other had a lavender plant. Though the top part was covered with white sheets, the sides were open with loose-blowing white curtains. The saffron sedan stopped, and Anya looked down once more. Rolf, are you coming to visit me? The lazy voice said with affection. Of course, dear sister, he answered. Aenor looked at her brother and the maid, Anya. He seemed at ease being in her company. Their parents had been suggesting that it was time for Rolf to find a bride. Aenor cringed at the thought of having an Urani servant called a sister-in-law. Good, follow my sedan then. And by the way, Anya, will we be having a show at sundown? She asked. Yes, my lady. A satisfied smile appeared on Aenor's face. This was turning into a beautiful day. She closed her curtain, and the sedan moved away. Anya and Rolf exchanged farewells, and he left. The performance and the punishment. Giroux lay back in bed with Aenor. Many things could be said about his grand concubine, but a lousy bed sport was not one of them. Her bedchamber blinds remained open, facing the direction of the setting sun. A light started to be emitted from the next palace compound, and Giroux sat up. Aenor smiled happily as she looked at Giroux's naked, well-toned body rise from bed and go to the window. Cheers accompanied the light show, and he turned to look at his concubine. What on earth is happening at the Mauve Palace? Aenor sat up, her face the picture of innocence. I believe Lady Yvetta said she was bored and needed some entertainment, so she requested for the Imperial Arts to send a few. Giroux was surprised by Yvetta's audacity. It had only been recently he sent the word to his harem, and she was already contravening him. Giroux got back into bed and sat back, Aenor coiling her naked body comfortably next to him, seductively kissing his neck and running her hand all over his body, trying to coax him into another round of lovemaking. Aenor didn't have to try hard, as it was not long before Giroux was ready and mounting her again. His mind for a moment drifted to the disobedient concubine in the next palace, but the one under him, who had her legs wrapped around his waist and her cunnis holding his cock like a vice, took back all his attention. He would handle Yvetta tomorrow. However, he was not looking forward to seeing Anya. Yvetta walked around her garden with a smile. The fire breathers and dancers were wonderful last night, and their coming showed that her power had increased in the harem. It was a shame that Aenor did not come, however, though everyone else, including His Majesty's ladies-in-waiting, had been there. She had made her servants put up a stage for the fire breathers as close as possible to Aenor's palace, so that she would be able to hear the cheers and see the fire. She also hoped it would attract His Majesty's attention, and he might leave Aenor. The scheme did not work, but at least she was entertained. A small commotion was seen at the Mauve Palace gates, and then His Majesty walked in with his 3 guards and Secretary Thancred. All the servants in the Mauve Palace bowed. They had just finished clearing out last night's activity. Yvetta was bid to rise by His Majesty, and he held her hands, placing her fingers on his lips. "My lady, how do you fare today?" he asked her. This was a question he asked her every time he saw her, but she never got tired of hearing it. It always brought her the same joy. "Quite well, Your Majesty," she answered as they sat under a shade on some laid chairs. Anya brought His Majesty's favorite wine and placed it on the table, carefully pouring the beverage into his cup. Giroux looked away from her. There was no need to tempt himself with her when he couldn't have her. Right now, his harem was filled with no place for her. She stepped back a few steps, and Giroux diverted his attention to Yvetta. The woman looked healthy and happy, but she still went against his words. "I gather you enjoyed last night?" he began. "Oh yes, Your Majesty. Excellent choice, with the Director of Imperial Arts. The performers were exquisite," she gushed. "Good. I would expect them to be, since I said that they ought not to be interrupted until they are ready to perform," he said after taking a sip of his wine. Yvetta's smile almost slipped. "They were ready to perform, Your Majesty." Giroux raised a dark eyebrow. He didn't know Yvetta could be this slow-brained. He hadn't explicitly said no one should interrupt the preparations of the imperial artists, but had made it a mere suggestion, hoping his concubines would use discretion and wait for the full moon performance. He internally cringed, and for once hoped the child she was carrying was not a boy, because if that was the only son he ever had, then Dunbria was done for if he inherited his mother's brains. He turned to look at her 2 ladies' maids, at Solove first, and then Anya, who stood with heads bowed. He couldn't punish his pregnant concubine, but he could teach her in some other way. "It seems your servants failed you, my lady," he said while looking at the 2, wondering why none of them advised their mistress accordingly. "My servants? How?" Yvetta asked. "They led you astray into disobeying my word. They seem to be playing a cruel trick on you. I advise punishment, my lady, whichever form you choose. For every servant in the Mauve, Thancred will send people from the Department of Punishments to help you," he said, standing up. Yvetta's eyes almost popped out of her head. "Your Majesty is right. I erred, and my servants did not hold me back. They will all be punished." "Good, and I hope this will not happen again in the future. If it did, I will assume the Mauve Palace is being terribly managed," Giroux said his last words before walking away. He did not like that the servants would have to be punished for their mistress's lapse, but he couldn't have his words disobeyed flippantly like that, even by the possible mother of his unborn son. After the servants in the Mauve Garden received 10 lashes each, Aenor and Ava walked in to find an annoyed Yvetta with a palace full of unhappy servants, all aching from the lashes. "I thought it was a joke when I heard that all the Mauve servants have been punished. I did not believe it. You really have displeased His Majesty, Yvetta," Aenor smugly said. Yvetta looked up sharply. "You knew this would happen," she accused. "Yes, I did," she answered honestly. Aenor wanted Yvetta to know her fall from grace was all her grand plan. "You betrayed me, Your Highness." A mocking low laugh erupted from Aenor. "Betray? Oh dear, that must mean that I had any loyalty towards you, which I never did. Ever. A disloyal woman in the harem. You are a disgrace." "Me? A disgrace?" "Yes, I did disgraceful things to His Majesty last night, while you dug your hole into oblivion, but I assure you he enjoyed every one of the disgraceful things I did. However, for you, my dear, your disgrace is something that is known palace-wide." Aenor rubbed the insult in. "Flew too close to the sun, did Lady Yvetta," Ava added with a small smile. She had been in attendance last night and enjoyed the show. Yvetta now remembered that all the concubines and ladies-in-waiting congratulated her about the show, apart from Ava. A silence had settled among the ladies. One had a flustered look, and the other 2 had satisfied smirks. "Do you hear that, Lady Yvetta?" Aenor silkily said. "I do not hear anything," Yvetta forced out. "If you pay close attention, you will hear the sound of your promotion flying away." Aenor's words made Yvetta swiftly take in a sharp breath. The 2 tormentors eventually left, satisfied with how the day had panned out. The full moon. Anya was frustrated that on the day of the opening of the theater, her ladyship had chosen Solove as her escort. "You will remain behind, Anya. I only need Solove for tonight," she said dismissively, knowing Anya would have loved to see the exciting, much-anticipated performance. "As you wish, my lady," Anya bowed respectfully. When all the ladies were gone to the Imperial Theater, Anya decided to do some digging. There must be something that she could use to find proof of her family's killer. As the darkness descended over Dunbria, including the newly built theater, the place was packed with nobles and the whole royal family. Prince Tedric had showed up with his 15 concubines, all eagerly waiting for the much-talked-about performance. The emperor's 10 concubines and 4 ladies-in-waiting all sat in their appointed seats. Though the weather was cold, no one wanted to miss this show. No one wanted to be the one to receive second-hand information about what happened. Laura was flanked by nobles and nouveau riche this past week, all wanting to be part of the gathering where all the creme de la creme of Dumbria would be. The backdrop of the stage alone captured people's attention. Down the river as the perfect backdrop was the rising, beautiful, full, creamy yellow moon, just as Laura had promised His Majesty. A smile tagged his lips. So far, she had delivered all she promised. On his left, Giroux had the Dowager Grand Concubine, and on his right, Aenor, his Grand Concubine, followed by Yvetta and the other ladies. Though surrounded by other people, the full moon had taken his mind back to a time weeks ago when enchanting green eyes looked up at him in wonder. Suddenly, he was anxious and hoping that she would not worship today. Not only because he wanted to see her again, but this weather was highly unconducive for dipping in an open pool of water. No one got a schedule of the listed performances. On this night, an opera performance was arranged, captivating the crowd's attention. The too lonesome, tragic lover's story brought tears to many women in the audience. The performers' voices were clear and polished, as were their performances. As the night ended, it was not the circus performance most were expecting the former circus performer to deliver, but a visually and emotionally stimulating performance. After the performance, Giroux took Yvetta's hand and placed a kiss on it, rubbing it. "I hope the cold wasn't too much for you, my lady," he asked gently. Yvetta's heart soared. This was the first time she was seeing Giroux after his displeasure last time. His public show of affection meant he had forgiven her for last time. The other concubines were surprised by the display. They thought Yvetta had been permanently knocked out of her pedestal. Anya was waiting at the entrance of the Mauve Palace to welcome her mistress, holding a lamp. She was surprised when the first carriage that belonged to her ladyship was empty, but following closely behind was His Majesty's carriage with the dragon and 2 daggers emblem. Anya bowed at seeing His Majesty step out first. The two entered the palace. She followed behind and served them tea, sure that her ladyship would be cold. She instructed the maids to place heaters around the room, making it comfortable. Giroux's attention was on Anya. Her hair was still dry, meaning she hadn't gone to the pool yet. "The Urani woman has gone above and beyond expectations, Your Majesty. I cannot seem to find anything to fault her on." Yvetta broke the silence while sipping her tea. With a flick of her hand, she dismissed Anya to stand out of sight. "Yes, I expected to see something over the top, but that was an amazing show she put up," he admitted. They sat and drank in silence after that. "Let me help you get into bed, my lady." "Today must have been tiring," Giroux said after some time. He had many things to do this night. Correspondence that needed to be answered before sunrise. The worship. When he walked out of the palace, he saw the distant figure of a woman turning a corner. He immediately knew who it was. His attendant was patiently waiting for him to enter the carriage when he decided not to. "Go ahead, I'm going to take a walk," he told him. The carriage went to the Golden Palace empty, and 2 of his guards followed him at a distance. He followed the lone figure through the gardens to the little waterfall pool. Anya reached the pool and took a deep breath. This was going to be cold. Her clothing dropped, and she stood naked on the edge of the pool. In the distance, she could feel his eyes on her, caressing her with a warm embrace. She jumped into the deep water, and Giroux released the breath he had been holding. Her white, creamy skin was, as he imagined it would be. He walked closer to the pool. Seconds passed, and she did not appear up for breath. A slight panic overtook him, and he rushed to the stone bank she had been standing on. Giroux frantically looked around the calm pool, but he could not see anything in the dark waters. The moon was shining above him, but not providing enough light to penetrate the deep waters. Anya suddenly broke above water for breath, and as expected, he stood on the banks where her clothing was. Giroux was relieved she hadn't perished in the cold water. When she came out of the water, he was displeased with her recklessness. "Are you trying to catch your death?" he said harshly, the passion in his voice stemming from the violent attraction to the enchantress that stood in front of him. Anya's white, creamy, heavy breasts held 2 dark, pebbled nipples. Her body was dripping with water which ran from her midnight-long hair to her body, some of it flowing over her perfect hips and gathering at the apex of her dark curls between her legs. She slowly put on her robes, and Giroux was disappointed she was fully covered again. He took off his fur cloak and draped it around her. For the first time, he noticed the wench was barefoot. A smile tagged at her lips, then she finally answered, "No, Your Majesty, I was merely worshipping. You, on the other hand, hope to catch me naked." She tipped her head to look up at him. And the goddess has blessed you because you did. She finished with a smile and stepped even closer to him. Giroux crashed his lips to hers, fully claiming and tasting them. Anya kissed him back with the same heat he was giving her. A part of her did not know where the sudden need to be possessed by him had come from. Her kisses were inexperienced but very passionate. He roughly pulled away and stepped back, running his hand through his hair. He might be emperor, but even he was not allowed to claim a woman who was not his concubine or wife. Anya watched him try to control his passion. She wondered which one would win out, duty or passion. She knew exactly the one she wanted to win when she spoke. Would you like me to leave, sire? I'm cold,